Item of business this evening. I have sat on council for just over a decade by a couple of months now. And one of the things I've noticed over the years is that as council members either retire or move on to different things, they tend to go quietly and just sort of slowly and quietly disappear without any real mention being made of their contributions to our city. Well, tonight is probably going to be the last meeting for a while for 3 of our council members. And they have all served at least a decade. I believe Mr. Restucci has served 20 or just a little more than 20 years. Mr. Farmer, all in total, how many years? 16 years. And then Mr. Hicks, you served 12, am I right? So there's a lot of wisdom, experience, and knowledge that is leading this council. And while we look forward to new council members and the energy, enthusiasm, and perspectives that they bring, we also want to pay respect to those many accomplishments that have been made under the service of these council members. And so I would like this evening to award each of these council members the mayor's coin for service above and beyond the call of duty. They have met many times, long meetings, difficult meetings, discussed difficult things, received phone calls that were hard to deal with, and all the other things that goes along with being a council member. And I want to go on record saying that I appreciate the contributions of each and every one of these gentlemen. They have helped me in my education as a council member. They have made me better at my job. They've held my feet to the fire. They're not afraid to criticize me when they need to. And so for that, I would like to give them the mayor's coin. So let me come around and I will do that.
Where do you want us? Down here, Mayor?
Yes, please. On down. We'll do this in order of years served. So first, Mr. Hicks. Thank you, sir. Came out of the bag, I'm sorry. Sure. Thank you very much. Mr. Restucci. Thank you very much. These guys have served a lot of years and we're going to be missing a lot of their experience. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And one more note before we get started on the agenda, and that is at the end of this meeting, I'm going to be awarding this gavel to Deputy Mayor Restucci. This gavel was presented to him and he became mayor, and he has requested, and Mr. Farmer and in our public safety committee agreed that, not public safety, it was a rules committee meeting, agreed that that should be done. So this evening, Mr. Restucci will receive this gavel in honor of his years as mayor and all he's accomplished, as well as he served on some very important committees over the years. And I think he does deserve to receive that as a gift. So in our next meeting in January, we will have a new gavel up here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
you, Council.
One of you guys get is there a list of names? There is. Okay, that happened without me seeing it. All right, public comments. Citizens are advised that they must limit their remarks to city council for 3 minutes. Council may refer items to staff to review and or research for presentation at a future council meeting. Recorded comments and meeting sign-in sheets are public records subject to disclosure under RCW 42.56. And the names of speakers are recorded in the meeting minutes, which is why we ask you to speak into the microphone, stating your name, city of residence, and then make your comments. I have 4 people who have signed up to speak this evening in public comment. The first is Maria Fernandez. So please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence.
Hi, Maria Fernandez. I'm with EA, Empowering Latina Leadership in Action. I am from Yakima, but most of my work is here in Sunnyside and Mapton, Lower Valley. And I am here specifically about the Sunnyside RNG project. As an organization, we are not publicly endorsing or opposing the project. I have many concerns about the way the project has been developed. One, and first and foremost, is the lack of communication to your Spanish-speaking community. This is literally going to be their neighbors for some of them. And when we canvassed the area around the proposed project area, we could count 3 families out of almost 300 homes that we spoke to that knew about the project. So we coordinated a community forum invited Pacific Ag, invited the port, county commissioners, our legislators within the 15th LD, you all as well, and not one person from the Sunnyside City Council or leadership attended this forum to answer public questions or to listen to public comments about their concerns about the biomethane digester proposed for their area of residence. So that it's highly concerning, and it is highly disappointing that you have the leadership here within the city that isn't interested in listening to what the residents have to say. I think those days really, I mean, it's apparent with the election, with 3 new council members coming in, that the city is really done with that approach to not informing community, particularly our Spanish-speaking community who have no other means of communications than whatever you all put out in channels that they don't access because they're not in Spanish. And so we're going to continue to push for some more information about this particular project. We do not oppose or support it. We want information. We don't know what kind of qualifications Trevor Martin has to conduct a thorough and objective SEPA review. We're asking for a third-party SEPA review. We're also asking for a full and thorough impact statement, an environmental impact statement. So we know exactly what's going into our backyard. So residents know what's going into their backyard. They're highly concerned, and you owe it to your residents to give them some information. We're going to continue to work in Sunnyside in every part, in every function of Sunnyside. We're not going away. And if you all can't be the communications channel to your residents, we will. We'll continue to engage the community on various issues. We're asking you to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you would like to speak to any of us or Ms. Alba about that, why we did not attend, we would be able to explain that to you. All right, the next name on my list is Rachel Magana.
Hi, I came to talk about the digester that's going to be built right next to my house, and I oppose that. I'm sure you would do the same if it was going to be built right next to your home. I don't think it's safe for me and my family. There's already a number of pollutants in the area with the ostrom farm or the mushroom farm, whatever it's called now, the nutrient plant that caught on fire. So I don't think it's a smart idea to add more things like this into that area. I don't feel like it's safe for me and my family. I don't feel like it's safe or a good idea for the citizens of Sunnyside. It's just going to contribute to people calling Sunnyside smelly side for years to come. And then another issue I have is the way that we're notified. The letter that I got in the mail, I got it December 1st, and I was to respond by December 5th. So it was postmarked the 21st, 2 days before Thanksgiving. I don't think that's by accident that these are mailed out during a national holiday when mail's going to be slow. I feel like that's done on purpose so then people can't respond in a timely manner because they're not going to get to it in time. They could be out of town. They might not be checking the mail. So I don't think that's appropriate that this kind of information is mailed out to us like during that kind of holiday. I don't feel like it's fair for the citizens of Sunnyside. I don't feel like it's fair for me. I was notified by another person, so I was able to kind of work forward to have a response ready in time, but a lot of people aren't. So, and then another issue I have is I don't think that this should be anywhere close to homes at all. I think it should be out far away in the country, no homes, no nothing. It's not fair for us. I have kids. I don't think it's a good idea to have that much traffic on Sunnyside Mapton Highway. There's kids that wait for school buses there. All 3 of my kids are still in school. So this is very upsetting to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I know I'm going to say this last name wrong. Shane Dine?
There.
Dare.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for correcting me.
Welcome. This is going right next door to me. Last year when you guys sent the letters out, it was right at Thanksgiving, the same MO that you had this year during a very busy time, during a holiday time. And I think that's just shady practices. You should have done more notification and putting in something like this right next door to more than, this is where we're growing. The city's growing out and you're limiting what we can do by the smell, the effects that's gonna happen. I'm not happy with it in any way, shape, or form. I'm not opposed to it. It's a good solution, but just not in residential areas or anywhere near residential areas. The traffic, the byproduct, the environmental reviews and everything that have been wiped away. I think that you guys are flirting with, there's a reason behind it. Either the water table's too high, there's other reasonings, the ground. I don't know. I just don't like it. And I'm opposed to it. And I wish you guys were more transparent, more opening and more forthcoming with the project so huge, that's so important. Why hide it? It's just not cool in my book. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, sir. And then Gerald Deaton.
My name is Gerald Deaton. I am directly affected by this ING product. It's going to be, like these other people have said, right in my backyard. And as they have children, I have grandkids that come and visit. I'm concerned about the traffic flow, major concern with that. I've been in I own two parcels on the Mapton Highway, 2561, 2581. One is my business, Jerry's Valley Meats. I've owned that business for 48 years. And I'm in the process of considering retiring in the next year or so. I think it's going to have a direct effect on the value of my property. I've talked to a couple different realtors and they're telling me the same thing. Your property value is going to decrease. But my main concern is the traffic load. I have seen over this period of 48 years of being in business and living in the same spot, numerous traffic accidents. There have been 2 fatality wrecks right in front of my business over the years and multiple accidents either way up and down the Mapton Highway. And loading that highway with 174 trucks or 200 trucks, whatever they're talking about, along with all the Milky Way trucks, it's just accidents waiting to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm concerned about the possibility of an explosion like went on at the fertilizer plant. The day that burned up, we had to evacuate. Black smoke so bad, I had to let my employees go. I had to quit work where I was at for the day. And I mean, we're facing with a hazardous product. And there's going to be some sort of consequence because of that. And like the other folks said, it should be built out in a community where there's nothing but sagebrush. Okay, maybe a few coyotes, not people. There's going to be a direct effect on people's health. I'm just really opposed to this being brought into our vicinity, so close to town, and our nice little quiet community being disrupted by something hazardous like methane gas. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Do you have any comments to make on this, Mr. Riley?
This time?
Yeah,
No.
speak into the microphone.
The process is proceeding like it's supposed to at this point, going forward. The MDNS was issued and there's been addenda to that. There'll be a permitting hearing before the city council to approve this at some point. Well, sorry, the planning commission, I think, is in charge of that. So where we are in the process at this point now, it hasn't been approved yet at this point. And so there's nothing to appeal. There'll be a time for public comment as well before that happens. So this hasn't been approved at this point yet. And there's still going to be public input available to this as part of the process.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Martin, did you have something to add?
Absolutely. So the city is extending, we are sending out another request for public comments. So that's going out this Wednesday. And it will extend the public comment period an additional 2 weeks for all the public comments that have come in. And then the city will be issuing a revised MDNS sometime at probably early January. So there'll be more more known at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor. real quick.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Martin, so this is at the planning commission and it hasn't come before the council.
No,
yet,
so
correct?
this, so no. Let me correct that. So no, this is a SEPA review at this point in time. So this is in the Port of Sunnyside, which is an M2 zoning district. In the M2 zoning district, this type of use is a permitted use. So we are going through the SEPA process to determine next steps, permitting requirements with Clean Air, Department of Ecology, and other SEPA agencies. So this will be an administrative opinion on my part. And then after the administrative opinion is issued, the applicant will come in for permits such as grading or something like that. Once that permit for grading is withdrawn, then there is an opportunity for anybody potentially aggrieved to appeal this, and that appeal would go to a hearing examiner or Superior Court, depending on the level of that. So that's kind of where we're at right now with it.
So coming before this body, it's a long way out.
It's if it comes before this body, it's a ways out right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so if that helps from the comments that have already been made, I hope that, I'm sorry, I haven't closed the public hearing session yet, but let's take this in order here. So for those who have made comments and have concerns about this, the process isn't over yet. We've got a ways to go. It comes before the Planning Commission before it comes before us. There will be a public comment time in that planning as well. So we're not ready to build it yet. And there's a lot of steps to go through before we get there. And we are following state law and everything that needs to be done. We're being as careful as we can with this sort of thing. So we've heard your objections. Please bring those back to Planning Commission when that happens for a public hearing. And they can consider that as well. All right. You look like you wanted to add something, Mr. Martin.
Just to be clear, it's not a use that will be heard in front of Planning Commission. This is in the M2 zoning district. So we have several different types of uses that are allowed in zoning districts, and they're at different type levels of review. This is a type 1 level review in the M2 zoning district. Because it's a heavy industrial zone, it does permit certain uses. And one of those uses is a renewable energy facilities. It was in, so the use itself will not be going before any sort of hearing body unless it's appealed. So they will have to, anybody aggrieved by this or wants to appeal it, can appeal it to a hearing examiner or Superior Court, kind of depending on the circumstance. So it will not be held in front of Planning Commission at any point, but an appeal can go before a hearing examiner.
Okay, and Mr. Reddick.
And so once the permit is issued, that'll be noticed to public before that is issued. So the public will know when the notice and when the permit is issued by the governing body at that point. At that point, then the appeal process starts if someone wants to appeal it at that point.
Okay. And every comment that I have received, I've logged. Every email that I've received, I've logged. They've all become parties of record. So all of those parties of record will receive a revised MD&S when that is produced. So they will see the staff report that I put together essentially.
Okay, so I hope that clears the pathway up for you all just a little bit. And there is still a process if you wish to appeal. And we will do our level best to keep you apprised of what's going on. And all that information, I believe, is public information, which means you have access to it at any time. We're not in any way, shape, or form trying to hide things from anybody. And if it's determined that we are trying to, if there's something that you can't find, we will help you find it. We have people that do that all day long, that dig up public records. So, yeah, ma'am, was your comment about anything other than the digester or? Okay, well, we're going to close public comment at this point, and if you want to talk to us afterwards, we're certainly happy to do that. But keep in mind that keep in mind that we are trying to keep this as open and public as possible. So, a long ways to go before we get to even the construction of this. So, all right, moving on. Consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the following: approve the minutes of November 13, 2023. Approve the minutes of November 27, 2023. Payroll vouchers, approve payroll vouchers number 119,417 through 119,422 and wire transfers as listed for $556,026.45 for the period ending November 22, 2023. Approve claim voucher numbers 107,920 through 107,953 and wire transfers as listed for $612,807.67 for the period ending on November 22, 2023. And approve claim voucher numbers 107,954 through 107,981 and wire transfers as listed for $494,095.12 for the period ending December 1, 2023. Council members, is there any item you wish to pull from the consent agenda for discussion? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Deputy Mayor Restucci, second by Councillor Hicks to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there debate on this item? All right, all in favor of the consent agenda, passing it, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion carries. Active agenda. Stormwater rate analysis. Consider adopting an ordinance to update Sunnyside Municipal Code, Chapter 13.30.070 entitled Stormwater Service Charges. Madam City Manager.
I'll turn it over to Public Works Director Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Robert Scott with HLA. He's going to do a little presentation on this.
All right, sir, welcome. And I understand you've got a PowerPoint presentation ready to go.
Yes, I emailed it over earlier. Is that, am I going to be able to do that? Just say slide or?
Yeah, if you just say next slide, let me just pull it up really quick.
I know it's there. I saw it in my packet this afternoon.
I emailed it over a couple of times because I kept making changes and the best one still didn't make it to him. So I know there's a typo in here somewhere, but.
I think we can live with typos.
So I guess, thank you for having me here tonight. I'll hopefully this won't take too long to go through. So slide. So just as a bit of background, the city's stormwater utility was formed. What does that make? I guess that's 15 years ago. And so the drainage in the city, all the parcels in town pay money, the utility rates similar to your water or sewer bill based on maintaining the city's stormwater system. It was originally developed based on HDR engineering, put together a sizable report that established that utility. And your current rates were established in March of 2010. Back in 2018, we were asked to take a look at that utility. There had been some issues with getting sufficient revenue and the feeling that the rates weren't necessarily representative of who was actually, basically whose parcels were actually requiring the most stormwater management to them. Slide. So your current rate structure is what's called a flat rate structure. Every parcel pays the same amount regardless of the size of the parcel, what goes on in that parcel, whether it's even a developed parcel. And so right now it was determined that there's a disproportionate residential contribution because if you're paying the same per parcel, a huge utility or a huge business, like a large industrial, they're paying the same as single family houses that might be a quarter lot or sixth lot, whatever you have. And so it was determined that the better way to approach this would be to look at the size of the parcel and what was going on in that parcel so that you could change the way your rates are being added into the city's finances and be able to more appropriately charge for the services that the city provides. So a residential lot is typically smaller. There's less of a traffic volume. You might have a few car trips to it, but a convenience store, you're having traffic all day long. And then the impervious fraction itself. So a city, if you have a residential home, you might have some water going into the city from, say, a driveway, but the majority of the rain that falls ends up in a gutter, probably goes into a lawn, and it in no way even gets to the city's stormwater system. So the feeling was that a residential property shouldn't be charged the same as an industrial or commercial. The next slide. So the goals of the rate study were, one, to address the fact that the current rate structure was not meeting the expenses that were being used for the facility or for the utility. Second was to determine with city staff what an appropriate annual amount to be saving for capital improvements. And then the third was to become more equitable and try to charge more fairly, so that the residences weren't taking on the majority of that financial burden. Next slide. So there's a bunch of numbers in here that are pulled from the report, but the important part from this is that your existing fund balance has been dropping year to year, and primarily because the city have had to use increasing amounts of staff time to be able to address concerns in the utility and to keep it managing, or to operating rather. And so you're looking at a declining fund balance that needs to get turned around. Next slide. So the planning assumptions, working with city staff, we set an amount for 2024 that we were trying to aim for personnel costs and beginning to do capital improvements that were necessary. And we were aiming to have a fund balance by, I believe that's 2029, to try to have at least 6 months of expenses. So to build some reserves so that if there was an emergency situation in your system, you would have those funds to draw upon. And then inflation and city growth to determine how we thought those rates would increase over time, and how expenses unfortunately would also raise over time. Next slide. So again, a bunch of numbers here, but the important part is in 2024 for revenues, we were targeting $475,000 as what we were hoping to have the rates bring in 2024. And then the lower right corner there, we're looking at a fund balance there that over time has grown to 6 months of expenses. Next slide. So the question then becomes, okay, if we're trying to raise $475,000 a year in rates, how do we do that? So we looked at 8 or 9 different approaches to say, okay, what if we charge this for this kind of rate? What if we do this? And we came to, basically it comes down to, do you do a flat fee per parcel, or do you have it dependent on the actual acreage of the parcel? Right now, undeveloped properties are paying the same as everybody else. What do we do about that? Do we say, if you have an undeveloped parcel, is that going to be the same as a developed parcel? We don't know. And then the third is, do we want to change, add some kind of a multiplier and say something like a commercial business, do they pay more per acre than a residence does? So those are sort of the questions we are looking at there. Next slide. So the recommended approach we came in with was similar to, in some respects, what HDR started with back in 2008, which is to base the rate on a number of ERUs, or equivalent residential units. So essentially, for every approximately quarter of an acre of parcel that you have, you're considered 1 ERU. So if you're 4 acres, that's roughly 16. And so that is, I'll out myself, that's the typo. It's actually 12,000 or so square feet per lot. And that'll come up if anybody's actually reading this later. You'll say, hey, how come those numbers don't match? So the the residential, we're giving that a multiplier of 1.0. So you look at a residential parcel as a residential parcel. Industrial, based on your city's code and how much you can actually have an impervious area per zoning, you can have up to 75% of impervious coverage as opposed to 50% for residential. So long story short, we treated those as a 1.5. Commercial can be up to 100% impervious, so they get a 2.0. And then there's sort of a catch-all other category where going through this was all done with county GIS data. And so some of those, it's not entirely clear what something falls into. So we treated those as an other category for this. And those are currently treated as residential. And we, after going through a bunch of different approaches with city, we decided, let's say undeveloped is approximately a quarter. We're going to give them a 0.25. Because an undeveloped parcel, you may get some rain and you may get some runoff, but realistically, an undeveloped parcel is usually scrub brush and dirt, which doesn't really have much runoff. And it's not going to be generating a lot of traffic where you're having a lot of cars coming and going and tracking water around. So we are treating that as our recommended approach is approximately a quarter of this amount. So we came up with, using this approach, the resulting rate is $3.15 per month per ERU. So a typical residence would actually see a lower rate impact as a result of this. And that was something that city staff were really happy to see, that we were able to take some of that burden off the residences and put it back into other parcels in town that really are more representative of where the stormwater system is serving. And so coming up with the number of ERUs, and then we end up with a little over $475,000 a year. Next slide. So I threw a couple of examples up here. So a typical developed property that's smaller than 1 ERU we determined during this that we wanted to have anything that was less than 1 ERU, we treat it as 1 ERU. If it's residential, you multiply by a 1.0. And so you get a rate for 1 ERU. An undeveloped industrial lot using this approach. So we have some numbers there. You multiply, you find out the number of ERUs, but since it's undeveloped, we're going to divide that one by 4 and until it gets developed. Excuse me. And so then multiplying out, we would see their rate was approximately $10 a month. I think it was, yeah, 1079. Okay, next slide. So the end result of this is right now your residences are paying, sorry, I can't read from back. It was about 70% of the revenue right now. And then it gets dropped to actually paying closer to the percent of the parcels and the percent of acreage. It drops it back down to approximately what would be a more equitable and realistic rate for them. And then for the other categories, really commercial and industrial tend to be the types of properties that are contributing the majority of your stormwater to your collection system. And they also represent a lot of the traffic in town. So it would be more appropriate for them to carry a heavier burden of what that rate structure would be. Last slide, I believe. And so that's kind of the quick rundown. The goal is to take this burden off of your citizens and put it into the areas that the businesses that really are generating most of your stormwater collection needs. So,
all right, council. Council, questions for this? I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Rob Scott.
Rob, thank you. Questions for Rob. Mr. Risucci.
Thank you, sir. So I was on the council in 2008 when we passed the first ordinance, and we ran into all kinds of problems. And one of them was an issue related to mitigation steps. So are we giving them some type of break if they've done something to the owner's done something to the property to mitigate stormwater?
So
Catch basins, things of that nature.
So I'll be honest, prior to HLA, I worked in private development also, and it was always my understanding that most new development now does have to do everything they can to take stormwater and keep it on site. The problem is that if that was truly the case, then we wouldn't need a collection system for the most part. And so I would say that would be something that we would have to deal with at the permitting stage to discuss what may or may not be necessary. But I do agree, new development doesn't have the same impact that existing does.
Well, in the case of one case I remember clearly was a preacher who came in here and told us that last year he got a bill for $600 for stormwater. This year he got a bill for $6,000 for stormwater. So, and that church had done a lot of different things mitigation wise to deal with stormwater, and we hadn't addressed that in the first ordinance. So I just want to make sure that we're looking at those things as we move forward. Shouldn't have any more catch-me's.
Yeah, well, I would hope that once you have something like this in place, they shouldn't be seen. The only difference they should be seen in their monthly bill should be as rate increases happen to address inflation. But in his case, do you recall, was it like $600 and then something changed the rate and then he went to 6,000 or?
We changed.
It was when this happened?
We adopted the rate in 2008 and we sent everything to the county and they actually sent it out and billed everybody. That was another issue mistake that I think we made. We realized that. So, okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, further questions?
Yeah, I didn't catch it and you probably explained it, but we have an awful lot of roads, paved surfaces that the city owns and maintains. How does that figure in on that?
So at this point, the rate structure that you have is based on parcels. And so it's right now, the rate structure as proposed and that is currently in place is only based on property that is privately owned I suppose there are also city parcels that would pay as well, but there's nothing in place for the city to pay itself for its existing road structure. Unfortunately, roads don't have rates the same way that a water or sewer utility does, where people don't pay a road charge the same way. And so there's no mechanism suggested at this time that would take into account the acreage or the actual square footage of roads that the city owns.
Yeah, just my opinion for future council, it would bother me if I had a lot that was total grass. And I had to pay more than what the street that's total pavement runs in front of my lot would pay for. It would bother me. I don't think it's very equitable for our citizens to pay for something that they're not causing.
The citizens are using the road, but I do understand the point. I mean, like anything that's owned by a city, the citizens as a whole are collectively paying for it. But I do recognize your point that if you own a grass lot, it would seem that way. As it is right now, everybody's paying regardless of what's in their lot.
Everybody's paying but the city. Correct.
I believe the city does pay a stormwater assessment, but I'm checking right now, so please stand by.
Okay, further questions? Okay, so I see Mr. Farmer's point. If we do,
We do. The city does pay a stormwater assessment on all of the parcels that we pay any sort of other utility fee on. So that is included. So the city's rates would be assessed at the same amount that others would.
okay, but when you're sitting up on top of the hill in a really hard rainstorm, all the water running down those vertical streets is coming from another street. It's not running off of anybody's property. And the next time it rains, you are invited to come to my place and sit under my roof and watch it roll down that hill. So it is a point worth considering. Mr. Hicks.
By my house, if they really want to see it come down. I'm at the bottom of that hill.
Yeah. You can watch it shoot off into the canal. So, any further questions? All right, thank you, sir. All right, so after hearing all of that, what is the desire of council on this question?
I don't know if you're gonna get us to move this.
I don't know.
If I could, would you guys mind if I make a couple of comments?
Miss Horner, go ahead.
When we get to the rate schedule, you'll see that the rate for residential properties is actually dropping by half. So it is going from like, I think, $6.95 to $13. And so it is offsetting for some of our residents that pay those. And while I understand what you're saying in regards to the roads are owned by the city, but the city in itself is owned by the people who live here. So if you'll recall, earlier this year, we had our Orchard Ave stormwater issue, and we had to, I think it was about $150,000 or $300,000. And we actually had to fund that out of our real estate excise tax fund because our stormwater fund did not have enough money to pay for that. So that's some of the issues that we're trying to offset with these rate adjustments to make it more fair so that the individual residents whose houses are on those streets are not compensating for someplace like Walmart, who may have their own catch basins in their parking lot area. But every time it rains and there's 200 cars in the parking lot and those 200 cars are driving out onto the road, they're taking a lot of that water with them. And so that's where this impervious versus unimproved property is a big concern. Go ahead, Ron.
Just wanted to add is yeah, because of the impact that we were talking about is mainly with commercial and industrial versus residential, is that the traffic that it's also accumulating when you have industrial, commercial versus residential. Even though, like we're saying, typically businesses like that are bringing in a lot of traffic. And that's what Robert Scott was trying to explain, the difference between them and a residential property.
Well, that did clear some things up in my mind anyway. It is a relief to me that homeowners will be paying less per parcel, but still there were some valid questions asked. So again, I'm going to ask, what is the desire of council on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to let the new council weigh in on this.
You saying like
They're the ones who are going to get the phone call, not me.
That's true. That's a record show that Miss Hart is shaking her head.
All right, well, we don't have a motion in place. So
I'm in agreement with Mr. Farmer.
We'll table this until the next session.
Yeah, but at the most are gonna be the new council.
Yeah, I have a hard time voting to adopt an ordinance that I'm basically handing to the next council.
Very well. And then is that kind of the feeling of all of council then? Ms. Ripley, do you agree? Mr. Farmer, do you agree as well?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we postpone this to the next regular meeting.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a slow writer. Do we have a second?
One second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Motion by Deputy Mayor Restucci, second by Counselor Hicks to postpone this agenda item to our next regular meeting in January. Debate on this? All opposed, aye. I'm sorry, all in favor, aye. Opposed, no. By 2 vote aye, this will be moved back to our January meeting. 24. Sorry, Miss Hart. All right, next item, Yakima Valley Highway Overlay Fuel Tax Agreement. Consider approving a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a fuel tax agreement with the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board and to execute all associated documents for the pavement preservation of Yakima Valley Highway between First Street and Sixth Street. Madam City Manager.
Turn this over to Public Works Director Sanchez.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. I will turn it over to Stephanie Ray with HLA, who's also going to be speaking on this.
Ms. Ray.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, city manager, public works director, thank you for having me here tonight. And I am pleased to be here tonight because I get to say congratulations to all of you. I mean, there's 3 members of council here that I know actually really pretty well, and it's our pleasure to say congratulations, you've been awarded a project. So a couple months ago, we were here presenting on Transportation Improvement Board, and we had 2 applications that we were submitting. If you remember, one was at 6th and 6th and Lincoln, and the second one was grind and overlay on Yakima Valley Highway between 1st and 6th. So the latter was successful. Statewide, they approved 20 applications, and Sunnyside's was one of the 20. And so we're here tonight to ask council to authorize the city manager to accept the fuel tax agreement and then also authorize all the documents associated with the project. Streamline the process for us. And just to recap the award amount, the city of Sunnyside has been offered a grant in the amount of $425,000 or $425,871. However, the total project cost is approximately $580,000. Now, I'm here tonight to try to explain this. It gets a little bit confusing. So TIB in this particular program is a 90% grant, 10% local match. With the project, and we knew this going into it, TIB only pays for 12-foot wide paving lanes. We have around 13 and 15-foot wide paving lanes out there, which don't think any of us want to reduce those paving lanes. So what happens is that delta becomes the responsibility of the city or the county, whoever owns the roadway. So an additional $106,000 is what we projected in engineering that would be needed in addition to the TIB amount. So $425,000 is your TIB amount. $47,000 is your 10% match to that TIB award. Then $106,000 is that additional. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Council, any questions for Ms. Ray? No questions. Okay. So this is voting to approve the acceptance of a grant. So what is the desire of council on this item?
Okay. I can move them all, folks. I don't mind. I move to consider approving a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter in a fuel tax agreement with the Washington State Transportation Improvement Board and to execute all associated documents for the pavement preservation of Yakima Valley Highway between First Street and Sixth Street.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hicks. Thank you, Ms. Ray. All right, so we got a motion by Deputy Mayor Restucci, second by Councilor Hicks to approve the resolution that Mr. Restucci just read. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. I also vote aye. Motion passes. Budget amendment number 3. And council and audience, I do need to explain that I woke up yesterday morning with a raging head cold. And so if it seems like I'm a little bit loopy, I almost am. And so speaking and all of that can be a little bit of a challenge today. But anyway, we're carrying on. Budget amendment number 3, consider adopting an ordinance amending the 2023 budget. Madam City Manager.
I'll turn it over to Administrative Services Director Horner.
Ms. Horner.
Thank you, Madam City Manager, Mr. Mayor, and Council. This will be our final budget amendment for fiscal year 2023. And it's a pretty short one. There's just a few things on there that were enhancements that you guys approved in the last couple of months. Those were the purchase of the fire truck, the ambulance, not fire truck. That'll be next year. The purchase of the ambulance, the 170 development fund creation, which is a transfer of money from ARPA from the general fund into that fund 170. And the janitorial and ACO, animal control staff. And I think that's about, and then we received that grant from RCO for tree removal. So those are the only amendments to the budget for our final amendment. The total change in fund balance is listed at $488,000. But part of that is that transfer of funds from one fund to another. So,
Council, questions for Ms. Horner? Hearing none. What is the desire of the council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Councilor Ripley to adopt an ordinance amending the 2023 budget. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I also vote aye. And motion carries. Second while I find the right page. All right, item D, schedule of fees and charges update effective January 1, 2024. Receive public comment and consider adopting an ordinance amending the Sunnyside Municipal Code 2.02 schedule of fees and charges and approving a resolution establishing the schedule of fees and charges effective January 1, 2024. To that end, I'm going to read this document about public hearings. This public hearing is being held to receive public comments and recommendations concerning the schedule of fees and charges update. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and state your objection. The time is 7:20. Public hearing is in session. All right, I have before me a blank page of people who wish to comment. So the line is not going to be out the door. All right, city manager will provide a staff report on this item.
I'll turn this over to Ms. Horner.
Ms. Horner.
thank you, Madam City Manager, Mr. Mayor and Council. With this agenda item, what we are asking for council to do is to remove the established fee schedule from the Sunnyside Municipal Code, which is the codified law that you guys pass, and change it over into being a fee schedule that is still approved by council, but approved through the resolution process. So what that allows us to do is manage the actual document in-house. And I'm going to give you an example of why this is a really great idea. So our previous item was our storm rate item, and council said, you know what, we're not ready to pass this just yet. Well, since we'll be moving the fee schedule to a resolution, we don't have to pull this item because we'll have enough time to bring it back to council at the next meeting to adjust that fee via resolution, and then it will change immediately the next day. So the previous process would have been that we had to have an ordinance in place to do it. The ordinance can't take place until 5 days after it's passed, and then it has to be codified through a third party that goes and updates our code online before we can make those changes. So now we can make those changes almost immediately. Once council approves the change, we can put it into place the following day. So most items in the fee schedule that you have listed as the exhibit to the resolution are the same as what is listed in the struck out language in 2.2 that shows all of the fees, with the exception of the 4% increase that we talked about this year, which was our assumed increase. And then some other small changes. Our garbage increase only needed to be 3.2%. We did have a lot of changes with our garbage utility this year as we kind of put a new process into place, not to have those overages charged individually. And so the increase for garbage was only 3.2%, which will be nice. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, next person, any person in the audience wishing to be heard on this matter, please approach the microphone, state your name and address and offer your testimony. I know I don't have any names on the list, but I'll give the opportunity to anybody who's in the audience. Yes, ma'am, you may approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and make your comments.
Tony Soto, Sunnyside, Washington. Why are you charging us more money for these fees and charges that you're stating?
I'm sorry?
Why are you charging us more? She said 3% increase.
Well, that's, as I understand, it's to match inflation. I'm sorry.
Okay, and one suggestion, sir. You know, I sit right there and I can't see that screen. That's unfair to me. I can't read it from.
Are we able to expand the text on there, Madam Clerk? Let's see if we can make that bigger.
When you have your council meetings, I can't read that stuff up there. It's too small for me. Look, I wear glasses.
Thank you for informing us. If nobody tells us, we don't know, and we're sure happy to try to make things easier for you. So, and we have been talking about other options with screens and different configurations as well. We will see what we come up with, but I know we used to have it on that wall, and that was very handy for me sitting up here. But yeah, I can understand where that could be difficult. So thank you for bringing that up to our attention. And Ms. Horner, am I correct in saying that these fees adjustments are basically based on inflation?
Correct. When we started out our budget process for 2024 this year, we talked about the assumed amount for inflation that we were going to go with. And we went with 4%. And so that's where most of these adjustments come from, that 4%. We didn't change some of the pool admission fees. We didn't change because we're not going to add 4 cents to the dollar for a kid to get in. That's just silly, and a lot of change for our lifeguards or our cashiers at the pool to have to deal with. So we tried to round to the dollar on most things. So some of the smaller ones don't show an increase, but everything else besides the garbage, which was the 3.2%, is that 4%.
Okay.
And if I may.
Yes.
The garbage is a contractual issue. We entered into a contract with Yakima Waste, and so we are required to do that increase per that contract.
Okay, very well. Mr. Martin.
And, for Title 15, the building and construction fees, I think we mentioned last time, those fees change twice a year, and we want them to fluctuate with the ICC averages, and we will be providing a link to those fees, printouts of those fees at the counter upon request, and they'll be online and available for anybody who needs them or wants them.
All right, thank you. Any further comments from the audience? Council members, any questions or comments on this item? Okay, so just as a little bit of information, some of this is as a result of a bit of a struggle this past year where somebody ended up paying a lot more than they anticipated because the fee had gone up, and because of the time it takes to get an ordinance changed by the third party, This individual ended up paying a connection fee that was much higher than what they anticipated. It hadn't been changed on the website. It hadn't been changed in the offices, but that fee had gone up. According to when we pass an ordinance, it always says this is effective 5 days after the passing of this notice. However, it's not necessarily updated on our website at that period of time. So that can cause confusion. The benefit here is this will be changed immediately. It's effective immediately. It's on the website immediately. And the citizens are better informed and able to keep up with what's going on a lot better. That's the advantage. That's the hoped for results of all of this. So that's what we're looking for here. All right. Is there any more comments from councils? All right, there being no additional comments from the public or council, let the record show this public hearing is now closed and the time is 7:27 p.m. All right. So, council members, having heard all of this, what is the desire of council on this resolution?
There's two items, an ordinance to amend the code and then a resolution to put the fee schedule back into place.
Is it omnibus? Can we pass it in one motion?
I believe so, as long as you say that you're doing both at the same time.
That's what the pause was. I was trying to catch all the information as I did that. So yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to adopt an ordinance amending Sunnyside Municipal Code 2.02 Schedule of Fees and Charges and approving a resolution establishing the schedule of fees and charges effective January 1st, 2024.
Thank you, sir.
Second it.
All right, we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Restucci and a second by Councilor Ripley. Is there debate on this item?
No debate. Just want to thank staff for the work that they did on this. I appreciated the workshop. We were able to actually go into this in much more detail. And so I didn't have any questions this evening. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
And I would echo the deputy mayor on that. You guys were very informative when you explained this all to us. So. All right. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I also vote aye. Motion passes. Item E, Police Guild Employees Healthcare Benefits. Consider approving a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Washington County's Insurance Fund and Colonial Life to provide insurance benefits for Sunnyside Police Officers Guild members and their families. Madam City Manager.
Turn this over to Ms. Horner again.
Ms. Horner.
Thank you, Madam City Manager, Mr. Mayor and Council again. We did get successfully through negotiations with the Sunnyside Police Officers Guild to find an insurance product that they preferred. And so it includes some stipulations that are special to being police officers that they like. And so it was within the same budget amount that we've already budgeted for 2024. So there's no need to make any amendments. All we ask of you is to go ahead and approve the plan that has been agreed upon between the Police Officers Guild and the city. And those are attached in the council packet. I just want to point out there were just a couple small changes to the application that a small clerical error that I made. So I can show you the new one if you have questions on them, but I just failed to include the life insurance portion.
Council members, questions for Ms. Horner?
My only question is, it's in the same budget. Is it the same policies, everything straight across?
It is different based on what the guild wanted. So they chose a plan that has a higher co-insurance cost to the guild, but a lower deductible amount. And then we've increased the contribution to their VIBA to help offset some of those additional co-insurance costs. But ultimately, it does perfectly fit within what we budgeted and what we were planning to spend in 2024.
Further questions? Hearing none, what's the desire of council on this item?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Councilor Hicks, second by Deputy Mayor Restucci to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Washington County's Insurance Fund and Colonial Life to provide insurance benefits for Sunnyside Police Officers Guild members and their families. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none, all in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. I also vote aye. Motion passes. G squared rezone and close record hearing. Receive public comment and consider adopting an ordinance up to rezone parcels 231-030-22024 and 231-030-22001 located in the vicinity of 1731 Scheller Road to be rezoned from light industrial M1 to high density residential R3 on the official zoning map. To the correct page again. All right. This closed record hearing is being held to receive public comments and recommendations concerning the G squared rezone, appearance of fairness disclosures. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and state your objection. This hearing is open as of 7:33. City manager will provide the staff with a report on this item. Provide the staff report on this item.
And I will turn this over to Community and Economic Development Director Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Good evening, City Council. Trevor Martin, Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Sunnyside. So I have before you tonight a request for a rezone at the vicinity of 1731 Scheller Road to be rezoned from M1 light industrial to R3 high density residential. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their meeting on November 14th, took public comments and motion to move this to the City Council. The applicant has proposed a non-project rezone at this point in time. They have two parcels approximately, or they have two parcels, and let me see the exact amount of. Let's see if I can find the exact amount of square footage for you of this lot. I think it was right around 4 acres. Yeah, I want to say it's right around 4 acres. And they would like to move this area from M1 to R3 for potential future housing project. They don't know the exact layout of it yet because the parcels are a bit funny. City Clerk, if you could go back to the map that was provided, the plat map or the record of survey that was provided. It's kind of, yeah, there we go. It's kind of interesting. They have 2 points of ingress egress onto Scheller Road. I believe that there's still kind of in the creative process of looping a road through that area, how that's going to work. And there might have been some other discussions with neighboring properties and maybe incorporating those properties into this development. But there's nothing set in stone at this point in time. So it's just a simple rezone from M1 to R3. There is high density residential immediately to the west of the site. There's some apartments just immediately west to the site.
So anybody, for clarification, the property is on Scheller Road on the east side of Sunnyside, right across from Sunnyside Christian High School. So if that helps you with a point of reference just a little bit, as you head east out of town on Scheller Road, it'll be on your right, just after the apartment complex that's been built there. All right, audience members wishing to be heard on this matter, please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and offer your testimony, please. Okay, council members, any questions or comments on this item? Mr.
A question. I know we've had a horrific amount of complaints about congestion on traffic there. Has that been addressed? Because we're adding a whole bunch of more cars with a housing development. So has that been addressed?
They did not do a tier traffic impact analysis as part of this development. I mean, we can certainly condition that as part of this development. As far as this one goes, because it's non-project, it's simply, there's no project action associated with it. So we don't know necessarily what this TIA is going to tie into. When the applicant comes back with a project, we can certainly ask them for a TIA, but because it's just a rezone at this point in time, there's nothing I can really tie that to. When a project does come in, we'll certainly make conditions on frontage improvements, curb gutter sidewalk, commercial approaches. But a TIA can't really be tied to anything at this point in time because it's non-project. So it's difficult to tie a TIA to a speculative rezone.
So we're basically, we would be premature in asking for anything there. Okay. But we do have the opportunity, we have the opportunity to do it when they submit plans to what they're going to do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Further questions or comments from council? I have one, and that is, there's already a fair amount of truck traffic on that road coming in from the east to the manufacturing plant that's there. Is that a truck route already?
I think so.
Not across from, yeah.
Not specifically a truck route. I mean, there's harvest trucks that go by there in the fall quite a lot, but okay, because that might impact that as well, because there's, that manufacturing plant there is going to continue to have fairly heavy truck traffic that comes in there. I don't know how that's going to impact. It comes from the east, but something worth thinking about as well. I don't know. Yeah, as Mr. Farmer said, we do need to think about congestion on our roads. We are seeing as developments come in that we really need to be planning ahead for that, and we don't want to get caught off guard. So
I fully suspect this to go through a long plat in the future, and long plats will be heard by planning commission. So we'll be able to go through that process.
Awesome. Any more comments from council? Then, there being no additional comments from the public or council, let the record show this public hearing is now closed and the time is 7:38 p.m. Get back to my appropriate page here. All right. So now the question is, receive public comment. We've done that. Consider adopting an ordinance to rezone parcels 231-030-22024 and 231-030-22001 located in the vicinity of 1731 Scheller Road to be rezoned from light industrial M1 to high density residential R3 on the official zoning map.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, didn't even have to ask what the desire of council was. We got a motion by Deputy Mayor Succi, second by Councilor Hicks to approve this. Debate on this item? All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I also vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Make sure I'm looking at the right place here. Item G, Phillips annexation. Consider approving a resolution authorizing the annexation of parcel number 231032-31402 with the zoning of planned unit development. And prior to the city council taking final action on this annexation, the notice of intention is to be completed by planning and community development director and submitted to the Yakima Boundary Review Board for 45-day review period. Madam City Manager.
And Mr. Martin, you're on the hook again.
Mr. Martin.
So what I have before you is something that hopefully isn't too unfamiliar. This is another annexation. The applicant, Yolanda Phillips, she lives just on the east side of Sunnyside, near C-Spec and just south of the church. It's on the north side of Allen Road. I believe it's Allen Road over there. The application went through the Planning Commission on November 14th. They reviewed the application and we talked about there's public infrastructure available to the site. And we talked about different options on bringing the parcel into the city. And they thought that the best effect or the best solution would be bringing it as planned unit development, which allows the property, because it is in somewhat of a transitional area from commercial to business. This would allow the property owner some flexibility on the parcel when it does come into the city and not locking it into specifically residential or specifically commercial. again, they wanted to simply bring it into the city at this point in time and have no plans on developing the site. They just simply want to bring it into the city. So the planning commission thought that they would allow them this flexibility upon coming into the city. So tonight I'm asking the council to authorize me sending the notice of intent to the Yakima County Boundary Review Board for their 45-day process. Once that is complete, then I will bring that Boundary Review Board review back to the council and wrap up the final ordinance annexing the parcel into the city.
So essentially what you're asking for us to do tonight is allow you to move forward.
Yes, correct.
Okay, but we're not bringing them into city limits at this
At
point yet.
this point, yeah.
All right, council questions? Hearing none, what is the desire of council on this?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Counselor Hicks, second by Counselor Ripley to approve a resolution authorizing for the annexation of parcel number 231-032-31402 with the zoning of planned unit development. Prior to city council taking final action on this annexation, the notice of intention is to be completed by the planning and community development director and submitted to Yakima Boundary Review Board for 45-day review period. Debate on this item. Hearing none. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion carries. Item H, 2023 City of Sunnyside Comprehensive and Text Amendments and Closed Record Hearing. Receive public comment and consider adopting an ordinance adopting the Planning Commission's finding for the 2023 text amendments. And I will read the public hearing again. This closed record hearing is being held to receive public comments and recommendations concerning the 2023 City of Sunnyside Comprehensive and Text Amendments. The concern is that this hearing be fair in form and substance as well as appearance. Council members, do any of you have a conflict of interest concerning this issue? Do any of you stand to gain or lose any financial benefit as a result of the outcome of this hearing? If your answer is yes, please speak now. Council members, can you hear and consider this in a fair and objective manner? If your answer is no, please speak now. Audience members, is there anyone in the audience who objects to my participation or any other council member's participation in these proceedings? If there are objections, please approach the microphone, state your name, city of residence, and state your objection. None. Time is now 7:44. Public hearing is now open. Madam City Manager, staff report, please.
Mr. Martin.
Mr. Martin.
Good evening once again. So tonight I have before you a series of comprehensive plan and text amendments that the Community and Economic Development Office of Community Development has been working on over the last year or so with various community members and the Planning Commission. So what I have before you is quite a few changes throughout the zoning chapter of the of our municipal code. And to not bore everybody to death, I'm just going to kind of go over them briefly and I'll answer any questions. So what I have before you are some changes to state law, specifically when it comes to conditional use permits and duplexes. There are some state laws that have changed that have basically allowed duplexes in municipalities and basically limited the powers of like for example, the Planning Commission or conditional use permits to regulate duplexes into a certain we can't impose additional regulations onto duplexes that we do single family homes. So we already have a pretty set rule. We already have a pretty well managed and established set of regulations for single family homes, and we are going to apply those regulations to duplexes. So that's one of the big ones. Another thing that we discussed, and I think it makes a lot of sense, is the elimination of the UGA zoning district, which is let me see here, which is our URA. I apologize. The URA zoning district, which is our urban residential agriculture or mini ranchettes zoning district. There isn't a lot of this area in the city. A lot of it is located kind of in the south central portion of the city, directly along 82, kind of in between South Hill Road and Ajo. There's a chunk in there. It's kind of undeveloped through that. And then there's a portion of it out on Outlook Road. What we have proposed instead is to rezone that to R1, low density residential. This does not enforce anything new on the property owners. It simply changes their zoning designation from URA to R1. We have been approached by several property owners on the South Hill Road area that have wanted to further subdivide these properties, and we just can't do it because it doesn't allow for it in our zoning code. So doing this does not prevent anybody in the future, if they want to create 1 acre parcels, they can certainly create and subdivide 1 acre parcels in the city. We are not preventing anybody from doing that, but what we are doing is simply allowing people to further subdivide their property if they so choose to do that. They can still do all of the same uses that were allowed in the URA in the R1. It just allows for further subdivision. And then throughout the rest of the code, we cleaned up some of the language. We no longer have a Board of Appeals. Everything either goes through hearing examiner or planning commission. And we have proposed a couple other allowed use types in various commercial districts. One of our commercial districts, restaurants weren't allowed. So we wanted to allow restaurants, and then beauty and barber shops. We allowed that in some other commercial districts as well. So those are some of the big changes that took place. Other than that, just a lot of cleanup language and just making things flow a little bit better and a little bit easier to read on the public side.
Thank you, sir. Any person in the audience wishing to be heard on this matter, please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and offer your testimony. Okay. Council members, questions or comments on this item? I just have one comment. I remember there on the south side of town, and there's that one section that they called mini ranchettes, and the property owners, the people who built on that little sort of gravel dead end street back in there, they specifically pursued that zoning for that area. They were very adamant about it. And this was back in the early 2000s, but I remember talking to some of the property owners there, and they were very clear that they didn't want it developed in that area any harder, and they worked to get that area zoned to just that. Have we got any feedback from property owners in that area that?
Well, we held a public hearing, and this has been out for public comment and newspaper and city website for some time, since I believe August, and we haven't received anything. No.
Okay.
And it won't change what they're doing right now. They can continue to use that property as what they were using it for. Yeah. So.
Right, but it doesn't stop anybody from putting higher density housing in that area, which is what they were trying to prevent in the beginning when they did develop over there.
Right. Yeah. So if somebody, there aren't many property owners down there in that area. I think that maybe a grand total of 10 or so. Yeah. So I suppose if somebody wanted to subdivide into R1 subdivision, they certainly could do that. That would allow that. Yes. But yeah, that would allow that.
Okay. Other questions or comments from council? All right, there being no additional comments from public or council, let the record show this public hearing is now closed and the time is 7:50. All right. Council members, what is the desire of council on this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move to consider adopting an ordinance, adopting the planning commission's findings for the 2023 text amendments.
Sir?
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion by Deputy Mayor Restucci, second by Councilor Ripley to adopt this motion. Any debate on this item? All right, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. I too vote aye. Motion passes. Item I, flock safety long-term contract. Consider authorizing the city manager to enter into a long-term camera, I'm guessing contract with flock safety. Madam City Manager.
Chief Lehman.
what mayor and council. So what we have here is a contract for block safety. And this is a 5-year contract. It locks us in at our current rate. The estimated savings from Flock over the life of the contract is $117,000. Our current fees are $103,500 annually for the 40 cameras that are deployed in the city. And so they sent me a contract. They said it had to be signed. It's good until the 21st. So I snuck it on this agenda at the last minute. And I'm asking for authorization for the city manager to sign the contract.
Council, questions for the chief?
I think I've brought up enough times some of the success stories of Flock. It's definitely helped our department in many ways, especially with short staffing. So,
Well, I would think it's not only helped our department, but it's helped other cities as we've caught some of their bad guys for them. Not that I'm trying to rub that into other cities, but yeah, there it is. Take it. All right. What is the desire of council on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Counselor Hicks, second by Counselor Ripley to authorize the city manager to enter into a long-term contract with Flock Safety. Is there debate on this item? All right, all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye and the motion passes. Thank you. All right, executive session, 20 minutes. To evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a public employee. And action is expected. For the executive session, we do have to ask audience members to exit. You're welcome to wait in the waiting room there and then come back in once this is over. We're going to need 20 minutes. Please don't think we're chasing you away. It's just. Everybody, we're back in open session. Item K, consider approving the city manager Alba's evaluation. Council, what is your desire in this item?
Move to accept the city manager's evaluation as presented.
Second it? Oh. I second it.
All right, we have a motion by the Deputy Mayor Restucci, second by Councilor Ripley to approve the city manager's evaluation. Is there debate on this item? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I too vote aye. Vote is unanimous. And just for the record, city manager's evaluation was an excellent evaluation. As council, we remain very pleased with the work that our manager is doing. So her evaluation was very good. It will be available to the public shortly. Item 4. Items from council members, mayor's appointments for boards and commissions, community and economic development committee that has 1 vacancy that we have been waiting for applications. We received 2, met with the deputy mayor and Councilor Farmer this past week, and they were both unanimous in saying, I don't know. So no, we did come to a decision, and if there's no objection from other council members, I would like to appoint Karen Erickson Vandegraff to the Community and Economic Development Committee. Seeing no objection, we can inform her of that appointment. I'm sure she will be pleased. All right, other reports, announcements, and or questions by council, and we're just going to go down the line. We'll start with Mr. Hicks. Nothing to say tonight. All right, Ms. Ripley.
I went to the I can't. To the gala Friday night,
Saturday night.
I tell you that this last week has been, but it was awesome. It was really nice. It was worth going to. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so I have a prepared statement. Sorry, that's just who I am. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, Madam City Manager, department heads and staff, distinguished audience members, and those listening online. It has been both my honor and privilege to serve as your elected representative for these past 20 years. Although the list of people who supported me over the years is long and I don't have time to thank everyone tonight, there are a few individuals who I want to call attention to and publicly thank. First, I'd like to thank former council member, friend, and colleague, the late Bruce Ricks. It was he who, with my wife, father-in-law, and mother-in-law, who encouraged me to run back in 2003. I'd also like to thank former mayor and council member Ed Perluchik. If it weren't for Ed's encouragement and support, I might never have gotten involved in AWC, had the opportunity to serve as the AWC board of directors, and ultimately being elected AWC president in 2016. I will also have to thank Mayor Ed and my first council, including Mayor Pro Tem then Mike Farmer, for appointing me that evening as an alternate delegate to the YVCOG. It was through that service that I eventually was able to serve as a primary delegate, executive committee member, National Association Regional Councils board member, and as I give my final address this Thursday, YVCOG general membership, as the conference's longest serving chairman with 14 years. You know, Mr. Mayor, I've had a lot of firsts. As a council member, I got to serve with the youngest council member in the city's history, Alex De La Cruz, who took office at 21 years old. The first Hispanic mayor, Pablo Paul Garcia, the first deputy mayor, Nick Palakis, and the first woman deputy mayor, Teresa Hancock, and the first woman mayor, Julia Hart, to all of whom to this day I consider my friends. Outside the city, along with my fellow mayors, I had the unique opportunity to create and codify many of the county's systems, including the Office of Emergency Management, 911 Administrative Board, the YAC Board, and I served as chairman of the EMS and Trauma Care Council, vice chair of both YAC and the Yakima County Gang Commission, as well as having a small part in the creation of the first in the nation Yakima Valley Local Crime Lab. I would not have been able to do any of this if it weren't for the support of the people of this community. And for that, I am forever grateful. In closing, to all of those I have served with over the years, I want you to know it was my honor, and I truly enjoyed working with you all. And lastly, I want to thank my wife, Delisa, my sons, Dylan and Alex, my mom, dad, mother-in-law, Deanne, father-in-law, Ron. If it weren't for their support, guidance, and love, I wouldn't have been able to keep on going for sure. And as for what's next, Mr. Mayor, a lot of people have asked me this. So having recently been elected vice chair of the State Transportation Commission, I plan to continue to serve in that capacity until my term expires in June of next year. I will also continue to serve on the Yakima Valley Transportation Policy Board, this time representing the Transportation Commission. And if elected on Thursday by the general membership, will represent the county at large on the YVCOG Exec Committee. So as I said before, I have no plans on disappearing. I'll finish in saying I want to thank you all for being part of this incredible chapter in my life. I'm looking forward to the next. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And may I say that you will definitely be missed. Your wellspring of wisdom has been a great help to me as mayor and a great help to me as a council member. So I wish you well. And if you think you're going to escape and just be able to run off and do whatever you want, trust me, I will continue to keep you in my speed dial.
I hope that, Mr. Mayor. And as I've said before, I will make myself available to the next council if they have something they want me to work on.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Farmer.
That was kind of a hard act to follow.
Yes, should have saved him for last, right?
But I can tell you, mine's just about the same. It's just that the names are different. I've had the privilege of working with great council members who truly cared for the city of Sunnyside and for the staff that have worked so hard and to make Sunnyside the town it is today. We've been very blessed with council members and staff that have gone the extra mile to make Sunnyside a destination place instead of a someplace on the map, I guess. I wish to congratulate the incoming council members. There's always a changing of the guard. And I hope that they find their services enjoyable and fulfilling as I have found my position. I know they've got lots of ideas and sometimes it's time for a change. And I want them to know that they have my support in as they take office and represent the citizens of this community. Been very blessed with a family that supported me. Been very blessed with a council that has supported me and a community that has supported me. We're all in this together. The more we work together, the better off Sunnyside's going to be. And just thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, well, I have nothing quite so moving to say. I got to participate in a few activities in the last week or two. One of them being, of course, the tree lighting event. And I always have a lot of fun with those events. And of course, I got to be part of the kids parade as well. I got to drive the side by side with Santa and Mrs. Santa and one of the elves around, and that was entertaining. I had to confess to them, I had never driven a side by side before. Now, how complicated can that be? Really, you put it and go. But I managed to make a few people shake and, oh no, nervous, what's going to happen? So that was entertaining. The kids parade had some good turnout and some really well executed floats. These kids and their families do a nice job, and that's just fun to see. Of course, we had the implement parade as well, which is always fun, and I always enjoy that. I think what we do during this time of year is a real highlight in the year for a lot of people, and we do it well. Saturday night, I got to participate in the Festival of Trees, and once again got to lead some of the entertainment by playing the heads or tails game. And if even any of you don't know how heads or tails works, you all get to stand up and you have to choose. I get a city coin, and then I flip that coin. You have to choose whether it's going to be head or tail, and then however it falls. And I let one of the Miss Sunnyside court decide which way it fell, so there's no cheating going on. And they called it, and Miss Alba here had bought about $1,700 worth of beads to ensure that she was the ultimate winner, and it was fun. So I got to do that. That was very gratifying. That was a real good time. Rules Committee met this past week as well, and we got talking about a number of things. We're going to be revising a little bit of the verbiage on our council rules and procedures and clearing things up a little bit, and we'll bring that forward to council here in the next session. We've also talked about appointing and how do we term that, Jim? A historical commission?
Historical Preservation Committee.
There we go. Historical Preservation Committee. There's a lot of steps involved in that. And one of the things that
Mr. Martin, you and I will continue to work together at.
Exactly where I was going with that. Mr. Restucci will continue working on that. He has agreed to be a part of that commission for at least the first year. I think we can possibly rope him in for longer than that if we have to be pretty clever to do it. But at any rate, that's what we talked about at that meeting. And I think it was a beneficial meeting. Also, I do want to once again express my gratitude to our departing council members. Each one of you has brought in different contacts. I hear different things from each of you. There's not a lot of overlap. You know, a broad range of people between the three of you. And so what I hear from Mr. Hicks is not what I hear from anyone else. He has his own contacts in the city, and I appreciate hearing that. There are people who trust him implicitly and will turn to him immediately if they have questions. Mr. Farmer, it's the same thing. People will call me if they can't get a hold of Mr. Farmer. So, you know, both of these individuals highly trusted in the community. Mr. Restucci also trusted in the community, but his contacts around the state and in the county have been absolutely phenomenal. And his work with the AWC, his work with the YV-COG, all of that has benefited Sunnyside a great deal over the years. So we will miss that. That being said, we look forward to new council members coming in. I see two of you here. I think that we're excited, all three, actually. Sorry, Julia, you're just part of council in my mind.
Oh.
So we look forward to your contributions as well. You know, we've read your campaign. We followed your campaign through the year. We know some of the things that you've said, and we look forward to working with you. So in 10 years or so, we will be looking at you and seeing what you've contributed and saying, wow, these people have really done the job. So we look forward to seeing that as well. So. All right, that's all I've got. The next item, upcoming council meetings, and that is Ms. Renteria.
Okay, so it's not in your packet because we didn't have anything until just probably a little bit ago. So we have the new council members being sworn in. Actually, I'm sorry, the January 2nd is a workshop, which is the day after New Year's. We'll see what council would like to do about that workshop. Then you have the Sunnyside Industrial. I can't remember what the D stands for, but.
Sunnyside Industrial Development Corporation.
There it is. Special meeting. And then we have our regular meeting where we will be swearing in the council members. So we'll have to figure out, let's probably have to do it at the same meeting to swear them in before that SIDC special meeting. We'll have the stormwater rate analysis again. That was the one that you postponed. Then the 2024 official newspaper is got pushed back because we didn't receive any at the time of our deadline. And so we republished it again. And so I'll be bringing any new bids that come in. Then reviewing the personnel policy, ambulance funding with this Washington State Treasurer's local program, and then F&M latecomers agreement and water system plan presentation and possible adoption.
All right. So council members, if there's anything that you need to add to that January 8th regular meeting, please, as soon as possible, get that to the manager or myself, and we'll get that on the agenda. As far as the January 2 workshop, those of us who are going to be here, that's me and Vicky.
Can I have an excused absence?
If there's no objection, I would like to cancel that meeting. I have the intention of not being here.
I'm gonna be babysitting.
Okay, so we will not have a workshop in January, so that our next meeting will be held on January 8th. And incoming council members, you will be sworn in before the SIDC meeting so that you can participate on that. And also so that you can be assigned a position on that if that is the desire of the port commissioners or council members. So please be there. That starts at 6. So be aware of that. That's before our regular meeting. All right. Items from department heads. Madam City Manager.
So I'm going to go first and publicly want to say that I hope all three of you don't mind me calling or emailing if I have questions, because you both, all three have contributed so much to my knowledge being city manager. And I do want to thank you for your service to our city and continued service. So with that being said, I'm very happy to report that my evaluation went very well. And the current council just really had some good things to say about me and some really good feedback on what I do and how I do things. The other thing that I want to say is, you know, we had kind of all of our Christmas activities starting December 1st. And today when I went to the community center and was doing some cleanup, I felt like Christmas was over. Christmas hasn't even started at my house. I don't care if I ever see another Christmas tree again. It was a fun event, but I really did feel like Christmas was over in some ways because I had, you know, that was my crescendo and I was like, okay. But with that being said, I think that we are going to find that we raised a good amount of money, which will be split with the Wings of Love Cancer Center. And we had a really good collaboration with the hospital this year. And not only collaborating, but building those blocks of, I have your phone number when something else is going on, I can give you a call. Recently we had an incident just 2 blocks from the hospital, and I called Sierra, she's the assistant CEO. I'm not sure her exact title, but I was able to call her and they were able to let the employees know ahead of time. They went into lockdown for a while, and then they went into a be careful as you get into your car mode. So that relationship has grown over the last few weeks, and it is very important one, I think, that we maintain between the city and the hospital, so that when there are incidences, we are able to notify them and keep them in the loop. Because, they are a big employer, and we sure wouldn't want anything to happen to one of their employees. So with that, I will inform the current council and hopefully the members of the audience that will soon be council members. I will be taking time off beginning on Friday, December 22nd through, I believe it's Wednesday, January 3rd. I will be in town. I'm not running away anywhere. I will have my cell phone, my email. I will try not to check it very often, but at least once a day. My staff has my personal cell, so if there is a reason to get a hold of me and I'm not responding, they'll be able to get a hold of me on that. So just with that, I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll turn it over to Chief Lehman and then let staff go down the line.
Mayor and council, I just want to go over the stats with you. This will be the last time you hear them for 2023. So I'll skip the last month. Let's go to year to date. So 8,681 incidents. The police department conducted 2,242 traffic stops. They had 810 arrests. Criminal non-traffic, 598. Those are your assaults and things like that. Criminal traffic, 358. Those would be your DUIs, suspended driving. Infractions, non-traffic, 14. Not a lot of infractions that are non-traffic, but traffic infractions, 1,008. Aggravated assaults for 2023 on year-to-date average are down 20%. Burglary, breaking and entering down 39%. Motor vehicle thefts down 45%. Robberies down 77%. Simple assaults down 7%. Theft from a motor vehicle down 34%. And theft of motor vehicle parts or accessories are down 60%. I talked with our crime analyst today after she pulled these stats, and we came to the conclusion that flock is probably one of the biggest contributors to the stats. We had our Shop with a Cop event on Saturday, went excellent. We had, I believe, 16 kids that came and were able to shop with the officers. Luckily, with some local business donations, each child was able to spend $200 for their family members. And then Walmart bought something off of their wish list for the child. And then the family was given a meal to take home. So it was a great event. On 12/21, which is a Thursday at 2, we're going to have our ham giveaway. That wasn't necessarily the plan going into the Thanksgiving giveaway, but that was such a huge event that we thought, well, we better do something for Christmas. So we've got that ramping up, and our goal is about $7,500 and we're at about 5,500. So we've got a little ways to go there, but we're trying to get that put together. I reported to you last time on the grant for helmets that we received from GISA. There's 2 helmets supposed to be here Wednesday for sizing, and then we'll get those ordered. Tomorrow night, we're going to civil service with hiring list of 9 potential candidates for police positions, which is the largest list that I can remember in the last couple of years. And happy to report that during the lighted parade, there were no issues as far as law enforcement was concerned. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council. I wanted to let you know that I did get contacted by the state auditor's office today to start the second part of our audit, which will include the financial statements and our accountability audits. So they are just starting this week in the planning phase, and we should have some time on the schedule before the end of the year. So it may not have a report to give to you guys on that before we come back from the year, but they are getting started on that. And what?
Somebody pushed their alarm. Somebody up.
Oh, I'm probably doing it.
Thanks.
Sorry.
His
He had to make it exciting.
And you're the one who warned the rest of us about it.
I did it when I became mayor in 2010 because Ed Paluchik was so short that I didn't bother, but it bothered me and I kept on. And I remember one of the cops had to come in. It was like 30 minutes into the meeting and I'm holding the meeting as mayor and he's whispering to the clerk so that they can get this message all the way to me. And they're like, can you get off the button? Because I was actually pushing on it the whole time. So they were hearing in their ears. So apologize.
I'm glad to know it works. So
New members of council, there's a steel plate in front of here and there's an alarm button right here. What we used to say is if somebody comes in shooting, just everybody rush and push the mayor up. That way, we're all protected behind the steel plate.
That's why I sit over here so that they'll go that way. I'll take my chances. Raw.
Alrighty, well, thanks. I just wanted to let you know that we are putting a list together and working on the blue lights that you guys are seeing with the street lights. There's quite a few out there, but we're getting a list together. Also, we started the process on getting the quotes for that RDO maintenance on Central Park for the trees. So we're waiting for that. And also just wanted to add to that I too attended the Festival of Trees and it was great. Had a great time. Good turnout. That's all.
Trevor.
So I don't have too much for you tonight. I'll send out a report tomorrow morning, but I just kind of wanted to report on the number of permits created and the revenue collected over the since we've gone to OpenGov, because we can make a really nice report and public portal for this. But since let's see, June of this year, we've had 825 records created, 237 inspections done, 612 permits issued, and $423,000 approximately collected in revenues for public works and building department this year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Ben.
Nothing at this time unless anyone has any questions.
Questions for our attorney? No, all right. Steve Hallrick.
Thank you very much. I just want to again reiterate comments made by Mr. Mayor and Madam City Manager. Just want to thank the service of Mr. Hicks, Mr. Restucci, and Mr. Farmer. Appreciate your guys' time and service to the city. Couple things real quick. This year, this is for the first time in at least my understanding that the fire department, we took a pretty proactive approach in involvement with the festival, or she's not the Festival of Trees, the Lighted Implement Parade. Things went very well. We were very honored and very glad to be a part of it. And for at least from our perspective, it was a fantastic event. So we hope to continue to be as involved as we were this last year. One thing, Madam City Clerk, I just wanted to draw attention to the agenda item there. Just for clarification, the Washington State Treasurer Local Growth Gov program is actually for funding for the engine, not for the end.
Sorry, that's probably my fault.
Sorry. Anyway, just a couple bits of data from the firehouse. Year-to-date call volume, we're at 4,097 emergency calls for service. Again, since I've sat here, it's gone up a few. Another thing, again, as I've been proudly reporting the last few council meetings, we've struck over 3,000 cumulative training hours. So we're at 3,054 training hours department-wide. Again, I feel like I bring that a lot, but it's something I'm very proud of my staff for. That's a phenomenal feat on their behalf. Couple of recent events, myself and two other members of our apparatus committee went to Hillsboro, Oregon this last Wednesday, and were able to do an inspection on our new ambulance that we purchased. So it was delivered from the manufacturer to the facility where they're going to be making modifications. We got there, we expected it to be red. It was white. They're like, no, we haven't painted it yet. And we had a panic attack. So we're like, fire trucks are red. We all know that, right? So, but we were very excited. It's a phenomenal piece of machinery. It's going to be a huge asset to the fire department, our community. So we're really excited to get it in service. We have an anticipated January delivery. So we're hoping by the first week of February or so, you'll see it out on the streets doing its job. So we're very excited for that. Last bit of items, we had our fifth volunteer resident start with us today. Today was her first day, so we're very excited to have her on board, and she'll start academy here in about a month and grow into continue to grow our volunteer and resident ranks. So we're very excited, and that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Madam City Clerk.
I have been with the city for 10.5 years, and deputy mayor and mayor were on council. And so I just want to thank Deputy Mayor for answering all of my newbie questions and still questions 10.5 years later. So thank you. And thank you to Councillor Hicks for putting all of the names. Now I don't know, Trevor's gonna have to take over. I saw him putting that up today. And then Councillor Farmer, thank you for also helping guiding as well. So thank you guys for everything. You guys will be missed, and I know I can always call you. So thank you.
All right. There being no further business to come before council, and if there's no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, council, and have a wonderful Christmas.